This is how I roll. Hangry.
That's right.
I'm Dave.
And I am Sean.
And we are Barstools and Bandtalk.
Complete music bucket list.
Yeah, all that shit.
Before we introduce our first guest, we started a little contest today. Real simple. Give us your top 5 concerts and invite 5 people to join the group, and we'll monitor it. And if those 5 people sign on, then the person that referred those 5 people will go into a draw. And I don't have it here; it's upstairs. But Darren Morash Geppetto has his Darionettes, and he gifted us a fantastic one of Lips from Anvil. So that's what the winner's going to get. So pretty exciting stuff. And we've got a couple people that are right out of the gates ahead of the game already. So
yeah, it's true.
But before we get going here, so I don't know, Dave, 2 months ago? We interviewed Dave Wallace from Sven Gali.
Yeah, so I'll let you bring him on. I want you to do the full thing because he's another drummer. And again, we don't try to favor the drummers here. We don't. We want to be free and clear with everybody. But straight up, one of our favorite bands, Sean and I both, had a life-changing experience when these bands would come to town. And they've kept going. Like they've evolved a little bit. And to Sean's point, we had Dave Wallace from this band, I won't say the name yet, come on there, and he just did a killer interview. Just such a great, humble guy, and a lot of really good information, and really filling in a lot of the pieces for us, anyhow, for sure. And this is Dan, and Dan Fila is going to come with us today, but he plays from the band. Go ahead, Sean.
Well, this is Dan Fila from Sven Gali, and the thing that I really liked about Dan before we even talked about him is how active he is on social media. I wouldn't say he's your typical backseat drummer guy. I mean, he's out there, he's pushing his band all the time. He actually was the reason why I found out about the EP, because I happened to catch his feed, and away we went. And I'm really excited to have Dan on. He does some great drumming video stuff. He's got a long history of recording, and he's going to have some great stories about not only the Sven Gali record, but some of the other stuff that he's done.
Yep. Let's bring him on.
Let's get him out here.
And Fila, there he is.
Hey,
Good day.
How you doing, brother?
So I don't know if you.
Right on. Good to be
I don't know if you can hear the intro, Jan, but the first thing that I that struck me about you is how active you are on social media, and I actually found out about the Sven Gali EP. I accidentally happened on your feed, and I'm like, holy crap, how did this happen? And I started following it, and that's how I found out. You're not a backseat drummer, my friend. You're out there promoting your stuff.
Yep, I believe in this band very, very much. It's just such an honor to play with such extraordinary people, and I really believe in this, and that's that. That's why I'm so active on social media about it. Want people to know and hear.
Well, and I will tell you in a roundabout way. So we struck up quite a relationship with RFL Records, who's your label.
Yep.
And we're actually doing a twice a month RFL artist sort of highlight or showcase, which is very cool. But when I heard that EP, I was, I said to Dave Wallace when we interviewed him, it's like it's the old, the new. It sounds very current.
Yeah.
Just talk about the process of putting that together, because you told me how it was how interesting it was to do.
Yeah, well, when we got together, there was, and I believe Dave said this in his interview, like in their mind it was just us getting together, but in my mind it was us doing something and making a record together. And I've always wanted to be a part of this band. I've always been a fan, and I really liked the guys. Like I believe it was 95. I did a demo with them and recorded like 10 songs. And the late D was also on that session. And we hung out at this at this ranch, and it was on Stony Lake, and Ronnie Hawkins and his girlfriends were there. And it was just this incredible experience and great vibe. And I loved being with the guys. And we've always had very good drummers. And I was hoping to be the third one. Not the third one on recording. Rob McEachran is a good friend of mine, and he's a great drummer as well.
You want to be the last drummer. Is that fair to say, Dan? You want to be the last drummer in Sven Gali.
That's my legacy.
Yeah.
I ain't letting go of this until maybe I explode in a chair like the Spinal Tap drummer.
Well, and I mean, our introduction to Sven Gali, I remember, and we told Dave, I remember walking in and they were doing their version of Stay Awake All Night. And, you know, D was on one table and Andy was on the other table. And one guy steals a beer and chugs it. D kicks the beer off. And it was just like, holy shit, man, that's the bar. Like, that's where rock and roll was at. So, and what I remember about Rob is the cymbals were so friggin' tight on the stands. Yeah. He'd hit them and they wouldn't move, but they sounded really cool. So they just, they were the real deal.
Yeah, great band. And I remember the first time I saw them play was in a bar in Hamilton called Bannisters. And it was around, I would say 88, 89. They just started playing together. And I was like, holy shit, that is a real deal. Those guys are going. And yeah. And that was before they had Rob in the band. That was with their original drummer, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, and Steve was one of the founding members, and yeah. But yeah, when I saw that, it was just like, the chemistry on stage with the four guys up front. It was just magic.
Yeah.
They're hard on drummers, man. You're not nervous? Holy smokes.
Nope. not at all.
Awesome.
Always big shoes to fill, but it's a whole new set of challenges. I mean, I sent you all the records I played on.
Yes.
And a lot of them have been speed metal records. Other than have been industrial metals. You talked about a band called Straight Jacket.
Yeah.
And there's a band called Hypodust that myself and Sean played in as well. And yeah, that was a really interesting project as well. We went to Europe a couple times with that band, and it was cool. So, I mean, with Sven Gali, I always saw and heard the pocket with these guys.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until much older in my life until I understood what that actually was. Like, I knew I liked the sound of it, but I didn't know what it was.
Didn't know why. Yeah. But that music breathed, you know, there's breathing space. It reminded me almost like an old Aerosmith or something. It was just infectious. When you heard those tunes, it was infectious, you know, and it was really, really well written, right? And it still is, I might add, because I mean, we've heard the EP, you know, we're like, holy shit, it's, you know, and now I know why, because we had a little talk before we went on, Dan, and you talked about how you had this secret ambition to be the drummer in the band, and you kind of tricked them into being the drummer. But I can tell that you were kind of a driving force behind this whole band, you know what I mean, to get it re-inspired again, or just to kind of rejuvenate their senses a little bit and just get the juices flowing, whatever the case may be. It's great stuff. And as Sean said earlier, it's current, it's relevant, and it's really happening. So good on you, brother.
Well, it just feels so good. And Dave Wallace is the only singer that I've ever played with that understands the pocket about like where to place his vocals. So it's playing in Sven Gali. It's the first time where I was ever able to actually fully understand that. It's like, oh, I get it. You got to listen to the vocal, and the vocal sets up the pocket. And I've also been studying like YouTube videos and you know, just listening to drummers. You know, you go back to Back in Black and Phil Rudd and his drumming on that album. You know, when it came out, I thought, oh, this is boring, man. This is crap. Anybody can play this. And you know what? It's not boring. It's not crap, and not anyone can play this. Lars Ulrich gets a lot of bad slack from people, and that fucking pisses me off to no extent. The Black album is genius. When it came out, I didn't like it. I was a huge fan of Injustice for All. And, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill Them All, sort of that quadrant of albums. But the groove on that record is incredible. It's like you're almost tripping over the snare drum. That's how laid back it is, right?
Yeah.
And that was sort of my mindset with the Sven Gali songs, is having that sort of, Phil Rudd, Lars Ulrich, John Bonham thrown in there. The song "You Won't Break Me" is, that whole beat is based around When the Levee Breaks, just sped up a little bit, few things thrown in there. And, if you listen also into that, you can hear, some Rage Against the Machine drumming vibes, rhythm in that song as well. So yeah, I completely got away from your question. I'm sorry. But
No. Actually, you didn't. And what you did is you open up a kind of another. I won't call it a minefield, but I mean, one of the things that myself I've been talking to guys about for years, and I'll use a guy like Don Henley. Don Henley. You hear what he plays, and it's like, he doesn't sound like he's doing that much. And then you try to play like Don Henley, and it's near impossible to play like Don Henley.
Him, Phil Collins, like
good call. Yeah, good call.
And it goes right back to the vocal. The drummer and the vocalist have to be in sync, right? And then obviously the drummer and the bass player. But if you don't have that synergy between the drums and the vocals, it's not going to groove.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's back further. You're taking back to Ringo Starr, Charlie Watts. That for the rock and roll element of it, it's the same thing. It doesn't sound super complicated, but wow, what a rhythm pattern it's there. I mean, and it complements the vocals, right?
Yeah. Well, it's all about the vocal.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other music I played, it's like, I'm gonna, show off my double bass chops and how fast I can do this, and this is much more of the person who I am right now. Like when I was 22 years old, I wanted to be Dave Lombardo. So everything I did sounded like Slayer, right? Everything was Rain and Blood and, that type of vibe. But, the more that, like with music, the more you listen to it and the more that you learn about it, the less you really understand it. And the more you have to, the more you know, the less you know. That's the only way I can push it. And that's what keeps me inspired. I mean, I'm taking drum lessons from a guy named Rob Reiner, who's the drummer of Anvil.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, Rob's snare work is mind-blowing. And, I want to learn how to play a bit more like that, just to have those chops, right? So as a drummer, if you think that you're a good drummer and if you think that you know what's going on, then really you're a shit drummer and you should, maybe not consider playing the ukulele or something. I don't know. Really, it's all about humility. It's all about humility. You got to realize that.
Well, you're bang on there. Yeah.
Well, it's, and you can learn something from everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, once you think you've arrived, you've realized that you haven't arrived at all. That's true. And that goes in anything, but especially in music. I'm at the top of my game. Well, guess where you're going now? You know what I mean? You can't stop learning. You can't ever stop learning, right?
No. I mean, lately I've been listening to like Toto, and things like that, and the sort of halftime Purdy shuffle in Rosanna. That like took 6 months of my life to get into that space, and still I can't play it with the feel that can't even remember his name now. That he plays
Jeff Porcaro.
Jeff Porcaro. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. His feel is ridiculous. That and Hold the Line, like those are heavy songs. And just going back and listening to people who could play organically and who had that organic pocket. And again, the Black Album managed to recreate that. And I'm pretty sure that when James and Lars were talking about that album, that Phil Rudd came up because you listen to that, and I hear a lot of Phil Rudd in there. I hear a lot of Charlie Watts.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you hear Lars's thing. And that's the genius of that album. And I can't tell you how many friends I've lost because they tell me that Lars is shit and that, you know, he's a hack and he's this. Lars changed metal drumming.
Yeah.
He broke the glass ceiling for the whole metal genre. And, you know, I haven't really listened to anything after the Black album because I sort of, you know, went into different directions. But, you know, that album is an album that will be remembered, you know, hundreds of years from now as a very important album in that time, right?
No question. And I mean, I remember reading a thing in Modern Drummer, and it was a Ride the Lightning album. And he was talking about playing with a quick track for the first time.
Yeah.
And I remember going, quick track? Like, what the frig is he talking about?
Yeah.
And I remember him talking about, and that was the very first time when they were talking about punching in and this foreign concept of punching drums in.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, you're right. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself, I'm not a Lars hater by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a very important dude for you know, what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's other guys like Charlie Benante from Anthrax and Lombardo and, you know, Vinnie Paul's in later years. I mean, there's so many of them, right? And you're right. You can learn from all of them.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just respecting what people have done for music progression. I mean, would Pantera have been as successful as they were without Metallica? I'm not sure. I mean, like the big four, when, you know, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, and Metallica, when that was all going on, that opened the door for all the other metal bands. You know, Death Angel came out of that and out of the San Francisco area. You know, Death Angel is a wicked band.
Yeah.
That's some great stuff right there. But, you know,
you take it back, and it's like for not only what you listened to growing up, Dan, but for me, it was like I was like the Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Scorpions, Black Sabbath, you know. But without those bands, there wouldn't have been a Metallica. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
it's 6-year intervals. You know what I mean? It's kind of I break it down to, you know, before that was Led Zeppelin, before that was, you know, the Rolling Stones, before that was Beatles, before that was Elvis, before that was, you know, Muddy Waters. You know, who knows, right? But you got to get your groove somewhere. It's funny you talk about evolving because it's during just before COVID, I kind of went back to music I hated as a kid, the disco era, but I appreciate it now. Like I listen to stuff and think, oh my God, the groove and some of that stuff, you know, was amazing. So I started listening to that little, as a bass player, I started listening to that, all that kind of funk stuff again. It's like, oh, you know, and it kind of ties into something I want to do now, you know, maybe with some writing or whatever else we want to do. But you can't hate any genre of music. You got to listen to it all.
Yeah, and learn to appreciate from it. I mean, the Motown era, like Superstition, you know, Stevie Wonder played that when he was 17 years old. And I didn't know until recently that he actually played the drum track on that song. I don't know if it was on the actual recording or the demo, but I mean, how do you play like that? Just to sit down and play that kind of groove, right? That's just some, you know, magic. Say, you know, this is happening for you right now. You're that special. So, yeah, that's my segment on music appreciation. I'm sorry.
Tune in next week for Dan.
Yeah.
But you know what, Dan? I think it was important because, you know, you played a genre that was, we'll call it upbeat and peppy, right?
Yeah.
A lot of double kick, a lot of, you know, blast beats and stuff like that. And I think because myself, when I grew up, I wasn't that guy. I was kind of the, you know, the Tommy Lee, friggin' like that sort of genre thing.
Another great
but, well, yes, but Iron Maiden was another one. But it was always funny. The metal guys were kind of like, you're not heavy enough. And I was like, you guys are too heavy. But to hear somebody that's actually played that genre break it down and sort of talk, I mean, it sounded like you and I rehearsed this. Because I talk to people about this all the time. The Black album, yes, but Back in Black, wow. Yeah. That album to me, magic.
I think that's the pinnacle of like a great hard rock album. It's like, you know, guitar, vocal, drums, bass. It's just like And I can imagine just like being in the studio with Rick Rubin and him just saying, do that one again, do that again. And just them playing it. And the drums sound almost like Phil Rudd is a bit tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where that really laid back, you know, boom, bah, bah, that just really laid back snare feel comes from. You know, you play a song 30 times, it's going to sound different. And I know that when Pearl Jam was recording their first album too, their first major, I don't know much about that whole genre, but I know that the recording process, they played those songs, you know, 50 times a day in the studio before they recorded them. And that's how they got that groove in there as well. So again, you know, production as well, but yeah, Back in Black, still, you know, that's an album. When I'm warming up, I warm up with Back in Black, some songs off the Black album with Metallica, some Pantera. Always dig into the Pantera stuff. Toto, and then like even some disco bands, things like that. Just stuff that just like got that groove and like really organic type of stuff.
Yeah.
But so how does that all play into Sven Gali?
Well, that's the burning question that we all have, Dan.
And that's the burning question. So getting back to it, it's both of their albums, the first two albums, had a lot of groove. Like Greg Gierson was like a train. He just drove right through everything, and he had that amazing groove element to it. And I studied Greg's drumming and still do, like for 3 years, to understand exactly what he's doing. That guy is a friggin' monster. Like he's a fucking drumming god. And learning how to play his stuff. And then their second drummer, Inwire, I believe the drummer's name was Mike. I suck with names. That guy's drumming, it's incredible. Like you listen to what he's doing on there, and it's just so dynamic and so graceful and so full of groove, but it's completely different than what Greg did. So my whole thing is trying to find sort of the middle of that. What was the middle portion? What would it sound like if you mixed that up? And then I like to play, I play everything with a click.
Yeah.
The whole show I play live, and there's drum loops and samples that are going on underneath it. So, for example, at the beginning of Kill the Lies in the first verse, the first 4 bars it's a drum loop. So it's a drum machine playing, and then I come in with the beat, bar 5. And, playing along with loops also makes the groove thicker, right? Because you're not just playing along to the click track. We have a lot of these other things that are creating this, rhythmic, I don't know, just this rhythmic pie, I guess is the only way to describe it. And that's a lot. I mean, Kill the Lies, and especially You Won't Break Me, a lot of drum patterns and things going on underneath it. And that's how that song was able to get that like super heavy, dark groove. That I've heard a lot of sort of comparisons to 9 Inch Nails sound in that one.
Yeah.
And there are some samples that sound like that. For me, that song reminds me more of a Rage Against the Machine. When I was playing that song, that's, I was thinking John Bonham and Rage Against the Machine and putting that together. And that's the foundation around that. Kill the Lies, again, that song and You Won't Break Me were produced by David Bendith.
Yeah.
And, David is one of the most talented people on the planet. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's intimidating being in a studio with that guy. And like I said, he produced our first album, our first Varga album. And after we were done that record, I was considering whether or not I had what it took to be in this business. I actually considered whether or not I should keep drumming or not.
Wow.
Because I saw what I saw what it's like. I saw how good you have to be that. And I wasn't sure if I was that. But being the type of person that I am, I overcome adversity and I say, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to show how good what I can do. And that's exactly what I did. And, those early years, we opened up for Metallica. We opened up for White Zombie. We opened up for Prong. We opened up for Crowbar. We had a lot of good times where I got to play on the same stage with world-class drummers. And I was able to say to myself, yeah, you know what? I can do this. And so, that experience was both, it was very eye-opening and it's very humbling. Let's put it like that. And going back in the studio with David, he wasn't the record label guy this time. He was our friend. Like, we wanted to work with him. And it was still very intimidating. I'm not going to lie, man. You have a guy there that's worked with the best drummers on the planet. And, there is pressure. And that's, playing in the studio, it's a total mind game. If you think in your head for 1 second that I'm not sure if I can get this right, you're not going to get it right.
Yeah.
You have to go in there with your head going, I'm going to fucking nail this. This is what I have to do. And you make adjustments along the way. And yeah, those are the first two songs. When we did Now and Hurt, we did those songs with a very talented guy, John Howard, who plays in a band called I Monolith and also played in a band called Threat Signal. And he was involved with the writing process on You Won't Break Me. And we recorded those two songs in his basement. And when you listen to those two songs, to me, the drumming sounds, it sounds more aggressive to me. I was in there, we didn't have we weren't paying $1,000 a day in studio time, plus, all these other expenses. We were in there for a month and I could go in, record some tracks, go home, listen to them and come back the next day and, really hone and get things to where I wanted to. And I'm very proud. I'm proud of all the performances, but I think, the performance in Now is something for me that was a real challenging thing because it was very outside of my comfort zone. And especially during the end part of the song when it goes into double time and there's a lot of really insane stuff there that I wouldn't have tried in a situation with, someone else. So yeah, those were those two.
Yeah, this is a great story because it's very reminiscent of our conversation with Dave because this album that you guys did, you didn't have to do it. You know what I mean? Had, and you had a very good career, but it's to Dave's point, he said, we never said we were fucking done. Like, no one ever said we were done. We just took a little hiatus, that's all, right?
Yeah.
But this album here is more for your own benefit, I think, you know what I mean? If people like it, great. If they don't, go fuck yourself. Because, it was something you had to get off your chest. That's the impression I get. And I hear that from you too. So that's really cool, man. Seriously, really cool.
Yeah, it was hard. It was a difficult album to make. We talked about that and there's a lot of barriers to overcome. And, especially for those guys, for, Dave, Andy, and Sean, because, people are so hard on them. It's like, oh, well, Dee's not in the band anymore. You guys shouldn't be doing this. And, I know that I know that he's listening to this stuff and he's going, fucking right on, man. You guys are still rocking. That's what he would want.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part for me with joining the band is keeping my mouth shut, not telling people to fuck off. So, it's like we're making music and we're carrying on the legacy of Sven Gali. We're not like diminishing what happened before, but bands keep on going. And for people to want the band to stop playing because they want the band to stop playing because they think it has to stay the way it was, I think that's not cool at all. And for me, I like I said, I've always wanted to play with these guys. The first time we sat and played in a room together, it was like, fucking right. It's like, yeah, you know, it inspired me. And you go through these phases, I know I do as a musician, where I become uninspired and I become you know, and I just, you know, I don't have that fire inside me, but being around these guys, like, I feel like there's nothing that we can't do together. And like everyone has that vibe to them. And, you know, Dave Wallace is the type of guy that if he says he's going to do something, he'll do it. He'll break down any barriers that are in place and he'll do it. And, you know, so yeah.
I had the great fortune of opening for them when they toured their first album in my hometown of Halifax, which was awesome. And you mentioned Greg.
Yeah.
I actually get to spend 2 hours watching him sound check, and it was pretty cool. And the one thing I remember with him is I was playing a couple of ratty cymbals.
Yeah.
And we opened for them on a Friday and a Saturday. So the Friday night, took my gear down. Saturday, he shows up. He's got a full set of Zildjian cymbals for me because he was endorsed by Zildjian. He had called the rep and he got me a full set, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. And I just remember, and I told Wallace when we opened for them, we were scared shitless of those guys. We had heard all the stories. We had heard about, you know, fights in the bar and all this stuff, and they couldn't have been cooler guys. I mean, they were legitimately very cool guys to open for.
Although
you know,
they
no
were
ego, no bullshit.
Town.
Well, yeah, but you know, they made it back. But they were great guys to open for. And that's what I remember about open for them. So I mean, you know, I don't want to say you're lucky because you worked your ass off, but you know, it's a good gig for you to have, obviously, because you know, they're making a comeback if there's such a thing, and it's you know, it's a nice way to keep what you're doing going.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the word luck, and that's it's I am lucky to be in this band, and I feel very fortunate, and I really do feel lucky. But luck comes with being prepared and being at the right place, the right
exactly.
place. So
couldn't agree more.
So that's how this happened. I mean, this was, again, you know, in my mind when I called Dave Wallace to jam, it wasn't for them to jam. It was for, like, I'm going to be your drummer. We're going to do shit together, and we're going to, you know, I want to do this. I felt it was, you know, I've waited a really long time to get to that spot, and you know, now is the time for me. When they recorded their first album, I was not the drummer that Greg Gearson was. Not even, you know, 1/100th. I couldn't have played that record. But, you know, I was playing a different style of music, right?
Yeah.
With Varga, it was more of it was thrash metal, right? It was a lot of double bass, and there wasn't groove. It was like me playing in sync with the guitars and everything playing together, very staccato.
Yeah.
And the second album, there's no way I could have played that. Like I drum along with InWire all the time, and every time I play with it, I hear something new. But Mike has this weird feel. Like, it feels so good, but it's like it's so unique, and it's just really incredible. And just to hear the stories from the guys, how they recorded the albums and that record and the studio experience. And again, you know, I probably would have died if I was recording that album with those guys. But, you know,
he was a Seattle dude, wasn't he? That guy?
Seattle dude, heavy duty, man. Just,
yeah.
Again, so, you know, being in this band, it's like there are big shoes to fill. You know, Rob McEachran, amazing drummer, and then Greg and Mike also. So, you know, I do feel very fortunate and lucky to be.
But it's not luck, though. Like you said, Dan, that's not fair. It's not luck. You did the work. You were prepared. You fucking made the opportunity happen because of your own belief in their band and your own abilities, right? So I agree with you 100%. This whole concept of luck, I get it. Maybe you're fortunate, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you made that happen, brother. So good on you, seriously.
Yeah, well, like before I called Dave, I'd been playing along with their songs for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'd spent 2 years preparing for this. And, Dave said it was just magic, when we played. And yeah, it was magic because I'd studied this in depth, like for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And I was just so inspired. So yeah, I mean, I am truly grateful.
So you and I were texting back and forth. I think it was on Saturday, and you had posted a picture a while back of the kit that you're going to be using when you guys go back out and play.
Yeah.
And so you had some of your other kits where you had these great big crazy cages and different sorts of things, and this one is bare bones, old school. Talk to us about that. I mean, did you say that was a 28-inch kick drum? Is that what I got?
Yeah. So that kick drum was thrown out. It was actually thrown out from a school. They got rid of it. It was so damaged and missing all the parts. So I spent the better part of the year completely redoing the drums. So I completely refinished and did the inside, did all the bearing edges, took off the broken wrap and did the black. So there's a lot of love that went into that drum, right?
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, it's like, the kit that I was using for Sven Gali during the first tour with the, double bass and all that stuff, that was a metal kit. And although it looked cool and everything, it wasn't Sven Gali, right? And one of the guys that used to work for Sven Gali, his name is Colin Lush, and he came up to me after one of the shows. He goes, dude, the drum kit is, it's this big show onto itself, and it's taking away from your performance. And, I would like to see you on a smaller kit so, you can perform, and, the medium is the drums. Because the first thing people would ever come up to me and say, it's like, oh, your kit fucking rules, man. It's this and it's that. And yeah, it was. But I look back at what Sven Gali, the whole history of the band, and it's not a metal outfit. And the 28-inch kick drum, I also use a Roland TD30, so I also have a trigger on it. So I have that giant 28-inch kick drum, mic to front head. There's no hole in the head to get that really stupid low sound. But the trigger has that, the thud. It has that nice, 30, 60 hertz, that really nice, that bottom end. And it sounds really special. And I just try to build the kit around that. And it's different because I would always play my cymbals at 11 and 1 and 10 and 2. But now it's the whole front is open.
Yeah.
So my cymbals are here and there, and it's really interesting because I can do things that I couldn't do before, and it's the kit forces you to groove. It's just like the placement of the hi-hat, the snare drum, and the bass drum. It's with the double bass drum, the snare is like in between your legs, and you're making adjustments for the hi-hat. This way, the kit is built around kick, snare, hat, bare bones. And I could use the shallow Tama Superstar toms, and 4 crash cymbals, a ride, and a hi-hat, and just go for it. And again, I wanted something that wasn't, upstaging what I do, right?
Yeah.
And it was a long and thoughtful process. And then it was really interesting because I didn't tell the guys I was doing it. That picture that I shared with you, that was the first time those guys saw it.
Yeah.
And Andy said, I respected your old kit, but I love this. This is Sven Gali.
Well, so that makes sense, because they're a groove band. And you don't need to have the tenaciousness, the overflow. You see something,
No.
that you can groove on, like, and I just
Yeah.
infectious. You know what I mean? You're going to get that infectious groove out of something that you
Yep.
can feel, as opposed to just hit. You know what I mean? That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but I'm just a bass
Yeah.
player. I don't know.
That's cool. So, what are your thoughts when you saw the kit?
Well, I mean, I kind of did a similar thing. I used to play the double kick and the rack toms and all the cymbals, and then I kind of less is more because I went from having somebody setting my stuff up to me setting my own stuff up, so I kind of pared down.
Yeah.
I thought retro. I mean, I love the way that you had the kick sort of set up on an angle, not straight, because I like that because it kind of has that double kick feel. Love the two rack toms. I liked how they were undersized compared to what you would normally see with that big of a kick drum.
Yeah.
But it just looks cool. And it actually, my first thought was, shit, I'd like to sit down on that thing and hit it, because it looked like the way I would set up and play. It looked really comfortable.
Yeah, it took months. It took months.
Yeah.
I didn't want any boom stands. I wanted all like very symmetrical, straight stands. And that was part of, like, I still want the kit to look cool, right?
Yeah.
It's still got to have that cool look to it. But, just placing everything properly and just fidgeting with that and getting a sound out of that 28-inch bass drums, getting heads for it.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
No, for sure. Are you triggering anything else besides the kick, or?
Kick and snare.
Okay, right on.
And I have a DW nickel-plated brass snare, which rips your face off. It's amazing. Yeah. And basically, the trigger just fills in that sort of the strainer part of it.
Yeah.
So there's no need for the bottom mic. It's like it has, and it also gives it a bit more weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the triggers aren't like the main part of my sound. They're an enhancement to it. And if you can use technology to your advantage, that's awesome. But it's I don't rely on it. It's just something that
2020, brother, get what you get. You know what I mean? Use as you can use.
Yeah, but you know what? When we're playing, and I hit any bass drum with that sample that I created, and the TD30 drum module, I mean, that gives you so many options. So again, I spent months getting the kick drum sound I wanted. And, combined with the 28-inch, it's people's intestines will be shaking.
Yeah. Like, and you mentioned you're using the click live. So when you're doing that, is everybody playing off the click or just you?
No, just me.
Okay.
Just me.
And so I'm going to ask you a geeky question, because I play in a band, we use a click, and I find that if it's just me, I find that they have a real hard time with, there's certain guys that get it and certain guys that don't, and it's a feel thing. Yeah. But I find mostly it's guitar players who, if they're not paying attention to it, they're racing ahead of it, and it becomes kind of a little tough.
Yeah, guitar players typically play ahead of the beat. It's all over the place. But the bass player, Sean, TT, that guy, he boggles my mind. There's nothing that this guy can't do. And when we actually started rehearsing, him and I just got really down into it, and we synced. He knows where to play. He knows where a bass player plays, and there's a reason why the band sounds so good live. People say, well, we want to sound like that band. Well, if you want to sound like that band, you need to be able to play like that band.
Yeah.
And
he's handsome as fuck. Let's be honest now, Dan. He is handsome as fuck, right?
Who's that?
Your bass player now.
Oh yeah, T's a handsome dude. So yeah, we learned. Just he knows where to play. He plays like just behind, and the guitar players, Andy's. He has such great groove and such great feel. And when you have everyone in the band gets it, it works. If you play in a band where people don't get what groove is, you're kind of fucked.
So now, who you're? Obviously, nobody can replace D. I get to know D when I was living in Ontario, and he was a character for sure. But Who's your I guess fifth member now that's rounding out the group?
Yeah, his name's Sean Williamson, and the first time I saw Sean play was when he was 15 years old, and he played in my cousin's band, and I got him into Varga, so did all that stuff together, and then the other band I played with was Hypodust, and I also got Sean into that band. And then when the Sven Gali thing came up, we auditioned a couple of other people, and it just wasn't right. You know what I mean? We wanted someone kind of like a Malcolm Young. You know, he stands back, headbangs, does his shit, and when it's time for him to come up, he comes up to the front of the stage and does his stuff. We didn't want someone. No one could ever replace D. You know.
Yeah.
And that was never the intention. It was just to, find a member to create that sound. Sean is a great rhythm player, and he fucking knows how to rip solos, and he does justice to Dee's parts. Like, he's not going, fuck it, I'm gonna change that. He's, playing Dee's parts like Dee would play them. And Dee and Sean were friends, like they knew each other. There's a history between all of this. Like, we were all friends, and we still are friends. And that's why, if it weren't for Sven Gali, Varga would not have had any success. We would have been another bar band, but they brought us up, to BMG, and it all worked out for the best. I think everything happens for a reason, and that's I'm in the band now for that reason, because I had that opportunity.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that that you're able to pay homage to the past, bring forward the members that you need to put forward to bring the band into the future. And that's, I guess, my last question for you, so we're getting kind of low on time. What do you see in the future for Sven Gali?
I see a lot more songwriting. And prior to COVID, we had dates in Europe lined up. We had all sorts of North American dates lined up. And like every other band on the planet, it's done some pretty bad damage. That will come around. However, we're using it as a positive experience. If I could just say one thing about the biggest takeaway and the biggest positive point of this whole record was the chorus of Now. Because Dave used to write so much with Dee, like all of the early Sven songs were, Dave and Dee collaborating and working together. And Dave did this one on his own. He went and he worked it out, and he kept on going back at it. And he came back with something that's really special. And I think that's, given him the confidence to say, you know what, I can fucking do this. And I love the EP. I listened to it, and I have a hard time listening to anything I've played on, because I hear the imperfections, and I remember the feelings that were going on during that time. When I listen to 3, it feels good to me. It feels like, I'm playing with people who I care about, who I respect, and it fucking rocks. Like, front to back, it rocks. It's a solid body of work. And I think, we've proven to ourselves that we can do this. 25 years after, not recording anything, and to come back with this, I think that's quite an accomplishment. A lot of people are going to not like it, and that's fine, man. Music is not, the whole idea is not for everyone to like what you're doing. It's for you to like what you're doing.
Right.
And that's what it is for us. It's, we love doing this, and there's a lot of material that we started working on, and there's going to be more. Our idea is not to release full-length albums right now. I think with the state of the music industry right now, people's attention spans are so short. A band will put out a full-length album. They've spent, thousands of dollars on it. They have 10 solid songs on it. And, after a month, it's people have listened to the album and it's done. You need to keep feeding your fans new material. It's, you know, we have to adjust to the new norms of the world and to the music industry. And I mean, that's, you know, another thing. It's like we're always learning and always observing what's going on around us. And for us to, you know, sit together and try to force out a 10-song album at this point in our lives, it's just not realistic. It's just
2112 wouldn't have worked in 2020.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know, we all have families and jobs, and, you know, Sven Gali is just the amazing bonus and, you know, joy that we get to have in our life that we're, you know, all of us are grateful to have.
Well, and I mean, the only negative about that EP for me, and I'm glad you brought up what you're going to do, is that there wasn't more songs. I was like, shit, I want to hear more, right?
Yeah.
It makes me happy to hear that, because that's exactly how I feel when I listen to it. It's like, it has a really cool flow to it, and man, I just fucking love it. I'm so proud of it, and I'm proud of the barriers that we overcame. We overcame, you know, a lot of people saying that it's, you know, we're having other people write songs for us, and that, you know, we're whatever. But there's a lot of negativity initially from the, you know, the really diehard fans who thought that Sven Gali cannot go on without D. That, you know, it was not right for us to do that. And you know, the first song, like "Kill the Lies," it has a part of a poem written by D in the song. There's no guitar solo in that song because of respect to D. I mean, you know, that song has a lot to do with him, and, you know, the band's you know, willingness and wanting to overcome that initial hurdle. Like, you know, we're back. And, you know, I got to tell you, there was a lot of people who were really mad that we released that song. But it comes to a time where, you know, it comes to a critical mass where more people are going, fuck, this is cool, than the initial, you know, hardcore people that are like, it sucks. And then we've come to that point where, you know, now we've come to the critical mass where people are going, you know what, these guys are back and they're serious and they rock. And, you know, they're enjoying the music as much as we are.
To your point earlier, Dan, you think about Metallica and how many people were all about Kill 'Em All, and then when the Black Album came out, a lot of people got pissed off, saying, "Oh, Metallica sold out. Look what's that song? They're a bunch of pussies now." You know what? They lost some fans, but they gained a whole lot more. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want to be disrespectful for the folks who love the old Sven Gali, because I was one of those guys too. But fuck them. You know, this is your gig, your time, and good on you for doing it, man. And listen, I want to appreciate. I just want to say thanks on behalf of Sean and I for you coming on the show tonight and talking about this stuff, because I could tell it's near and dear to your heart. I know it's important to you, and I'm glad we're going to get the message out for you. Seriously.
Yeah, well, really appreciate that. I love the old Sven Gali stuff. It's in our set. Like, I mean, we have 4 new songs. We play almost the entire first album. We play, we're gonna play 3 songs now from the second album, and, you know, it's part of the show. And I think the new songs fit in with that. It's not like
yeah, I agree.
You know, they're off way out there. It sounds like Sven Gali, and that's what was really important to me, because, you know, the band has a history. They, you know, and I want to carry on that legacy, and, you know.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'm straight up, and I said this to Mr. Wallace, and I tried to not sound like a fan when we talked to him, but I grew up a Kiss fan. You can see my backdrop there, but the 2 bands that I saw in the old Crazy Horse in Dartmouth were Brighton Rock and Sven Gali. That actually knocked my socks off. Yeah. And when not gonna lie, when I heard that something was coming out, I was like, I don't know. And then I heard it, and I was like, yeah, it was so cool. And I said that if people are pining for the old days, well, hey, whatever. You know, what's old is new again. But I think it sounds amazing. You guys should be super proud of it.
We're very proud, and it's just the beginning.
Right on.
There will be lots more.
We told Wallace,
don't pull up Boston or friggin' Star Wars and wait 6 years between the next EP. Okay, is that a deal?
No. That we're gonna have our plan is to have every 9 or a month, a year and a half, we'll have a new EP out.
Right on.
We're gonna have another single out by November.
Nice.
So yeah, the same plan. We'll release a couple singles and a full EP, and yeah, some videos, and we can't wait to get playing in front of people's faces, man. It's just like we really, really, really miss this, and hopefully we can figure out a way to get beyond this and get live music back to people so we can hang out and.
Oh, we'll get you
I'll
back
tell
to
you what,
Halifax. How's that?
Yeah.
I had the opportunity, Dan, to play in Fredericton last weekend, and it was different.
Yeah.
Reduced capacity, but it was pretty freaking cool to be playing with the boys, even albeit not as many people.
Yeah.
And it's different here than for you guys. Obviously, the population and whatnot, the way things are going up there, it's a little different. But you're right. When you get back, bud, you're gonna really like it because it's pretty cool.
I'm very jealous, but just do that, and I'm living vicariously through you right now.
Well, I just found out I get another one next week, so I'll have to keep you posted on that. So,
do it.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, man.
All right, Dan, do us another favor too, brother. Go ahead.
What was that?
I just want to let you do us another favor too. You see, you have another release coming up in November. Give us a heads up. We would love to promote it here on Barstools and Bandtalk.
Yeah. The song is not fully written yet, so I can't tell you anything about it.
Yeah.
But I think that we have that we've developed a sound. I mean, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be melodic.
Yeah.
And I think the next song is going to be a little bit quicker in tempo. The one that we're working on.
Right on.
A little bit more sort of like I don't want to compare it to anything, but the here today, gone tomorrow type of vibe.
Right on. Nice.
And then we have a couple of slower things we're working on, and a couple crushers. But I mean, the commonality is Dave Wallace is going to be up there singing his heart out like he does, and let's face it. I mean, we could have all played our asses off and had the music great, but if Dave didn't come up with those vocal performances, it wouldn't be anything. And Dave is, he's a real deal, that guy, man. He goes into studio and he just pulls magic out of himself. I don't know how he does it, but it's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's a singer like no other. He's very, very unique voice. When we talked to him, I there's a couple of people in my head that I thought he sounded like, and he said, he didn't even name them as influences. So pretty cool stuff. But you know what? I'm so glad we finally did this, Dan, because you and I kind of been going back and forth on social media and different sorts of things. It's great to finally meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the video that you sent me the other day too. That was super helpful. I made work of it the other night, so that's awesome, my friend.
Nice, man. Thank you so much for what you're doing for us, but for the music and getting music out to people and keeping it alive. And we appreciate that, and there's a large body of people that appreciate that too, because we're for people like you and your passion with what the two of you guys are doing. There would be no one around to share our music. So thank you.
Appreciate that, sir.
Yeah. Listen, peace out, brother. Looking forward to the next stuff.
Right on.
Thank you so much, Dan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. You guys are amazing. Stay cool.
We'll be in touch, brother. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye. See ya.